So the Georgia runoffs are coming up, and Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff going up against Republican Senator David Perdue. Ossoff has surprisingly, shockingly released a great campaign ad. Now, I'm shocked by this because Ossoff is not a progressive candidate. In fact, he's, for the most part, fairly conservative. Doesn't back, Medicare for all, doesn't back Green New Deal. But he does back sending money to people. And that's what this ad highlights. And I think he does a fantastic job selling his agenda while also discussing how David Perdue is lacking.
I'm Jon Ossoff, and I approve this message.
When this pandemic hit, millions of Georgians like me had to file for unemployment. We needed our senator's help. But for David Perdue, we weren't the priority. Senator Perdue voted to give hundreds of billions to big corporations, even if they lay people off. But he fought against the $1,200 stimulus check for workers and supported cutting our unemployment benefits. Even at a moment like this, David Perdue's there for his donors, but not for us.
Now, that was really good. And it's really for two main reasons here. One, Jon Ossoff is not in the ad, which I think is a plus. Having a guy in a suit, I think inherently for a lot of people, especially the average person who is just inherently distrustful of politicians, seeing the politician on screen, in his suit, talking all smooth, they're just not going to trust him. So having someone else there, having, just an average guy from Georgia talk about what Perdue has or hasn't done for the state, I think is important. And having him deliver that message is a lot more effective than Jon Ossoff doing himself. And also, it's clear and direct about two main issues. The fact that Perdue is serving corporate interests and that these stimulus checks are needed for people to survive. And by focusing on that main issue of having these stimulus checks, or I rather call them survival checks because people need the money, being able to focus on that singular issue and showing how these two candidates differ, and that essentially Perdue is blocking your ability to be able to receive that money, that I think goes a long way to potentially convincing a lot of people who may just stay home. Like, it's not gonna convince the diehard Trump voter, but that isn't the idea here. The idea is getting people out to vote that would not normally be interested, because either they don't trust politicians or they don't like either party, which is a lot of people. But seeing that there would be a clear difference here with Ossoff supporting these direct payments while Perdue doesn't, I think this ad effectively communicates that. And we're going to see. If he's ultimately successful. I think it's going to be a tight race, and it may come down to Republicans not being enthusiastic about voting because they're now distrustful of the voting system because of all the BS that Trump's peddling. So if there's a suppressed conservative base coming out, that's going to help Jon Ossoff. And if Jon Ossoff continues pushing a message out like this about, very focused message around certain policy issues like getting money in people's hands, then I think it will help him to potentially win this race.